Are among the top consumer complaints to the FCC. Those unwanted calls annoy us day and night, and they're getting worse.
Joining us with ways to effectively block or stop robocalls is attorney and law professor Abbas Kazerounian. He is here to tell us all about it. Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
So how many complaints does the FCC receive on this every year, and what kinds of companies are we complaining about?
Well, believe it or not, the FTC, the number one consumer complaint that they get is about robocalls, and it increases every year without question. So, for example, in 2016, there were 3.4 million consumer complaints. And then the first 6 months of 2017, there were 3.5 million complaints already.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness.
As far as the type of companies that we're talking about, it's essentially a lot of marketing companies. Anyone that wants to sell you stuff exercises their right to use an auto dialer to get customers. Whether they do it legally or not, that's a different question.
Right.
Are there prime times for spam calls at a certain day of the week, a certain time?
Well, you know, these marketing companies, they choose to call you when they think that you're going to answer the phone. When are that? Well, it's when you're most vulnerable as a consumer, or when you're most likely that you're not busy. When do consumers, more likely to pick up the telephone? It's actually when they're not using their leisure time, when they're with their friends or family, so during work hours. And specifically during tax season is when it goes into overdrive.
Oh.
Last year in 2018, there were approximately 143 million spam calls on tax day.
Wow.
Wow.
Is there a way they could, I have my phone, it sits here all morning long, and nothing. Then all of a sudden, the moment I text something, is there a way they can detect I'm using my phone? Because all of a sudden the calls and the robo
You've mentioned that before, yeah.
start pouring in. Can they tell that I am by my phone?
You know, can companies do that? Yes. The likeliness is no. The reason why you're getting calls at those particular times is because they've done their market research, and they know when you're most likely to be, free and be able to pick up that telephone or be able to look at it. And that's why they're effective, and you think that.
Wow. A lot of folks use their cell phones for work now. You see a call come in, you don't recognize it, and you pick it up, and then it turns out to be a spam call. Is there some way to know that, oh, that's a spam call coming in?
Sure. A lot of these smartphones these days actually have a spam filter. Oh. So what they do, there's a database where they can recognize these numbers that are most likely to be calling you with a spam. And when that happens, if you use one of these modern smartphones, they sometimes alert, if you've activated it, it goes red, or it sends you some kind of alert that says, this is a suspect call, it may be a spam, so probably you should ignore it.
But not for your landline at home. That's just for mobiles.
No, you obviously, you can have an ID, but it doesn't have the same. Now, can you get that software for your home line? I'm sure you can.
If we pick up the call, I know there was a time where you should be really careful. You shouldn't say yes or no to things because they can use your voice for something. So now if someone calls me, it feels rude, but I just hang up. I don't say anything.
Sure.
What should we do if we realize we don't want that spam call?
Well, I should preface the answer here, because most people that are calling you, with spam calls, they are trying to accumulate data because they're marketing aggregators that sell that data. So when they are calling you and, there's a pause, if there's a pause, that's indicative of a dialer. Yeah. Or if it goes into a robotic call, it's like, hi, is this Frank? Press 1. What they're trying to do is induce you onto a list where you have given your consent to get future calls from other robo-dialers.
Wow. Gosh. And so finally, how can we prevent these calls? We know that you can go on a list. I'm on that list, but I still get calls at home.
Sure. I think that's the first thing you should do, is the do not call registry with the FTC. And I think everybody should do that, doesn't like these telephone calls. The second thing that you can do is that there are a myriad of apps that you can download to block numbers. The ones I kind of use are like Truecaller or Who's Call, but there's any one that you can pick from. And I think you should also understand is that if you've got to a certain point in your life where you just, I want to do something about this, is that you can either report it to the FTC, as a consumer complaint, but what you can also do is take private right of action. What a lot of consumers don't know is that they're protected under the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. It's a federal act, and if you get an unwanted telephone call by an auto dialer to your cell phone, you're entitled to either $500 or $1,500 per call.
Really?
Absolutely. I have had clients that have had hundreds or thousands of calls that have got recoveries in the millions. So absolutely.
Really?
Consumers should know that.
Well, yes, they should. Thank you so much. The number to the Do Not Call registry is 1-888-382-1222, or log on to donotcall.gov. If you'd like to know more about Attorney Abbas, go to his website. We appreciate you being here.
Thank
really,
you. Useful information.
yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate it.